We are online now, and for the review, we have 4 PowerPoints to review in 2 classes. So we will review 2 PowerPoints today and another 2 next Monday. Okay? On next Wednesday, we will have the first call of AV2, and on the following Monday, the second call for the AV2. We will review from, again, consumer behavior because it will shows up in the AV2. It's a topic that it was in AV1, but it was the last topic for AV1. And I also want to reinforce the content of this material for AV2. After that, we'll follow with forecast, demand, economic blocks, and everything else. Let me just open the PowerPoint. Sophia, every test there is 2 calls. The first call and the second call. It's demanding from Unifor that we have 2 calls. But I just in your case, I know I spoke as in automatic because of the other classes, but in reality for international marketing, you will have only 1 call because the first call was the presentation. Now I understood your question because I'm having the same speech over and over again with several other classes. So I just spoke in automatic mode about the first call and second call. But you are correct. For international marketing, you will have only the second call because the first call was the presentation. But only one team has made the presentation, and so everyone else will have to make the test. So to give, so I will give more chance for everyone, and the time for the first, what should be the first call and second call, I will use all this time for just the second call. So instead of making the first call on the 20th and the second call on the 25th, I will send the test on the 20th, and you have until the 27th to finish the call. You have 1 full week to finish the test because it's the same timeline that I have for the other classes to make the first call and the second call. So the time that everyone else has to make 2 tests, I will give you to make just 1 test. So it's a handout. Please use this opportunity to study and make the best AV2 you can. Okay, everyone? So let's start. Hello, Soline. So we will start again with the consumer behavior. Since it's a review and I have to make more PowerPoints than usual because I have to present another class today, content, I will be a little faster. So I will not be very much on the details about each slide. I will only brush the surface of the content in the most important details about this content so you can focus your attention now. But when you are studying the PowerPoints for the test, pay attention to every detail. But in the review, I only focus on the surface of the situation. And if anyone has any questions about, just turn on the microphone and ask me, okay? The consumption is the primary cause and the final effect in marketing. Every marketing campaign, every marketing study has only one goal: to sell something, to make something be consumed by someone. So it doesn't matter if you make a great market campaign, beautiful advertisement, TV spots, a famous actor or actress in your campaign, everything beautiful, won a tons of awards because of awards, because of your campaign. If the product do not sell, your campaign, your market campaign is a disaster, is a failure. So there is too much advertisement agents today that focus too much in the image and the artistic details of the marketing and not about the selling of the products because they just want to win awards and not to sell. And that's a real problem today in marketing Brazil and worldwide. So we'll always remember that the, the final effect intended result for marketing is the consumption of a product, the sale of that product to someone. So because of that, knowing the consumer, it's essential for a effective consumption. How can you sell something for someone if you don't know who they are, how they think, what do they want in their lives? If you don't know the answer for these questions, you will never make a good market campaign for your product. Consumer behavior is the study of the how individuals, organizations select, buy, even discard goods. Because if you know the discard patterns of the consumer, if you know which part of the products they do not like or do not use, and I'm not talking just about the package, because if you think about a fruit, pineapple, apple, every strawberry, I don't know. If you think about the selling of fruits, which part of the fruits do the consumers really consume? Which part do they discard? How can I focus my campaign in the good parts of my product? So that's also important when you are thinking in marketing. You have to think about the discard of the goods, the service that you present, the idea, the experience that you give your clients. If you go in an Apple store, you are not just going to buy an iPhone. It's the whole experience in that store, the design of that store, how the, the sellers come to you, how they help you, the way they talk with you. Everything in the Apple store is a experience to facilitate the selling of the cell phones. Factors that influence the behavior of the consumer. Cultural factors, his culture, his subculture, his social class. The consumer patterns for a high society class is different from a low society class. So you are thinking about, so my consumer, it's from the the night people that goes to samba. But even the people that like samba, I don't know, you are selling a CD, a DVD from some artist that sings samba. But you have to know the subculture of your buyers. What kind of samba is that? What kind of, I don't know, rock is that? If it's a heavy metal band, you cannot sell that product in a hardcore marketing because it's a different subculture of the same gender. It's not about just the culture. The subculture is also important. And the social class, it's viewed as a cultural factor. On the social factors, what's important? Reference groups, opinion leaders, family, role and status. People who choose their products to communicate and show their roles in society and their status in society to anyone that can see it. Personal factors, age and stage in life, occupation and economic circumstances. Because economic circumstances is different from social uh, position, because you can be in a moment of your life that you have low income, but that doesn't mean that you are a low class. A good example for that is people who after retirement, even the big executives, big CEOs, when they retire, that their income goes lower. They have more expenses with medicines, health care. So the money that they can spend with other products, it's also lower than it was in their prime age, in the prime of their uh, business. So you have to think about that. I'm targeting the high class of society. Okay, but in that high class, who's my real targeting? Is the CEOs, it's the doctors, or it's the retiring CEOs and businessmen that do not work anymore? You have to think about that. The economic circumstances of your target marketing, their age, their stage in life. What do they do? It's also important. And that's personal. It's really individual. Personality and self-image, lifestyle. Everything revolving around the self-image and lifestyle of a person. It's important to make a decision in your market campaign. How do they think? What are their personality? What do they like to do on their free time? That's really important. How much free time do they have in their lives? One thing that you can do is think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, or the Freud conscious and unconscious motivations, or Herbert satisfying and unsatisfying needs. You have to think about in these three levels of subconscious. Freud divided people in two groups: people who make decisions with conscious thought, and people who make decisions with unconscious thoughts and motivations. Herbert had another view for these situations. It's not about being conscious or unconscious. It's about the need that they are satisfying right now. It's enough for them or not. What I'm doing, what I'm buying, will satisfy my needs, or I will stay unsatisfied after I purchase that product. That's the point of view of Herbert. But the line of consumer behavior, the model for consumer behavior that I most like, it's the Maslow. It's the example in the image with the pyramid. Maslow, think about the hierarchy of needs. Everything that someone do, it's thinking through about a order that has to be satisfied, so I can go to the another level and think about that new situation. In the base, I have to think about my physiological needs. It's the basic for every human being. I need food, I need clothes, I need a roof in my head. It's the basic of the basics. I will never think about buying a PS5 if I can buy my lunch. If I don't have food in my fridge, how can I think about changing my car to a new Mercedes Benz? So you never think about high levels of consumption if I don't have my basic needs fulfilled. So half my basic physiological needs, I have to think about my security needs. Where do I live? I like where I live. It's safe here. How do I go to my work? How do I go to school? Do I have a car? I like my car. I feel safe going to work or to university in my car. Or do I prefer to go by bus, by subway? That's your safety needs, your security needs. After that, you have your social needs. Well, I'm not hungry, I'm not cold, I feel safe. Okay, now I can think about where would I like to go? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do today? Who I want to see? I want to hang out with my friends in the shopping center. I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the countryside. I don't know, but I can think about that right now because the basic of every one of my needs, it's fulfilled. If I don't have social needs, if I'm seeing my friends in a regular basis, I have a good relationship with a companion, I'm married, I have kids. If everything there's in these aspects are okay for my life, then I start worrying about my self-esteem needs, my really ambition needs. What do I need to do? What do I want to feel good, to feel happy? What can I do to myself to feel good, to feel happy? I want to study again. I want another degree. I want to buy a new house, a better car. I already have a car. That car fulfill my security needs. But now I want a better car. That's my self-esteem. I want to be seen not in a Volkswagen Gol. I want to be seen in a Mercedes-Benz Coupe. After that, I have the final and utmost not basic needs in everyone's life. Your self-realization needs. Oh, everything in my life is good. Everything in my life is okay. So now, what are my goals? I want to go to climb Mount Everest. I want to travel every month to a new country. I want to have a full collection of, I don't know, baseball caps for everything of the major league. When you arrive in your self-realization needs, you will only think about uh, items and consumptions and services that are not needed in your life. You will only do it because you can do it. It's a goal in your life. Example, myself. I have a goal to climb the ladder in the top 50 restaurants in the world. It's an official list that it's updated every year. So every year, I try to go to a little better restaurant until someday in my life I can go to number one. Right now, I'm in the number 38. I had already lunch in the Casa do Porco. It's a restaurant in São Paulo. And right now, he's number 38 in the world. If all my physiological needs, my safety needs, my social needs, my self-esteem needs are complete my life, I will keep going in my self-realization needs. So someday I can go to the number one restaurant in the world on that year. Okay? That's a self-realization. And this is a real example from my life. I want to go to all 50 restaurants from the top 50 list. Not in the same year. I know that the restaurants change every year, but I want to climb down the ladder and every year go to a better restaurant than the year before, regardless of who is in that position. Consumer consumer perception. It's the process with someone selects, organize, and interpret the information received to create the image of what they want. The consumer learning, the psychology learning for the consumer, think about the behaviors that change with the experience. We as everyone, every consumer, tends to generalize responses to similar stimulus. But what symbols can be copied to leverage the impulse to buy? What kind of situation can I create in my marketing that every consumer, from the aspect of consumer behavior that wants to affect, will have the will have uh, they will make what I want them to make. The reaction. How can I control the reaction of my consumer using the same kind of stimulus and create a experience that gives me the same results with everyone from my targeting buyers study. Another aspect of consumer psychology, it's memory, association, brand association. Like in Brazil, almost everyone says, I want to buy Bombril, not I want to buy metallic foam. I want to buy Cotonete. Cotonete, it's a brand. It's not the name of the product. So that's memory. That's memory association, brand association. And that's very used by companies to make their brand known. Purchasing decision process, segmentation, market segmentation. It's about a group of consumers who share a similar set of characteristics. So you have the consumer behavior. When you have your consumer behavior study complete, you can then proceed to segmentation because you know how your target thinks, how they feel, how do they uh, stand in their lives. So, in which segment of marketing do I will have the most of the consumer that I want to target with my campaign? The segmentation, it's about identifying and profiling the group of buyers that you need or to differ the needs and preference of all your buyers. The selection of one or more segments in which your company, your product can or wants to operate according to the attractiveness of your product. Then you choose the better segment. Establish a value proposition that meet your needs and desires in that market segment. And after that, you develop a suitable marketing mix. Only after you have traced every aspect of your market segment for your product, you can think about the development of your market campaign or your marketing mix. The kind of market segmentations, the types of targeting that you can do when you are making a study for a new market campaign. The geographic, thinking small in one city, Carrefour bairro, Carrefour neighborhood. It's a Carrefour in each neighborhood of the city. And the kind of products that Carrefour is going to sell is going to change from one Carrefour to another. Because he's thinking about the segmentation of marketing and what kind of buyer he have in that neighborhood comparing to the other neighborhood. Another kind of geographic segmentation. Nova Skin, São João. São João, it's a national holiday, but there is specific states that use São João festivities more than others, that have more festivities than other states. So you target on that states, on the San Juan period, your new brand for your new beer. Demographic segmentation. Segmentation about age, lifestyle, sex, income, generation, race, and culture. You can see the Accor line of hotels. He separate his hotels from the budget line of hotels to the luxury line of hotels. It's every hotel from the same owner, the same group, but the style are different and they target the different kind of guests that they want in their hotel. Generations gap, generations segmentation. You have the baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, Generation G. Here's an example of Generation G. Types of targeting, another one, psychographic targeting. That's a little more complex. In psychographic targeting and segmentation, you think about the psychological traits, the lifestyle, the values of your buyer. The behavioral targeting and segmentation, the attitude, the use, the knowledge of your buyer from your product, the needs and benefit of your product to the buyer. Genome segments. That's another example just to show how complex segmentation can be. You can even think about the personality traits, the image seeker, the engaged newcomer, the everyday loyal, the price driven, the enthusiast. I'm more about the everyday loyal. Another complement for the behavioral type of segmentation. Use and user status, usage rates, the disposition stage to buy that product, loyalty status. When you are thinking about B2B, B2B campaigns are different because you have to think about not a specific buyer, but you have to think about the company. You have to think about the morals and the targets and mission of the company that you want to make business with. So when you are talking about demographic, we are talking about company size, number of employees, the socioeconomic, the market position, how profitable is that company, how in depth is that company, the infrastructure of that company, technological level, the product you are trying to sell. Since it's another company that you are going to make business, you have to think about some kind of benefits that you usually do not think when you are trying to sell to the final consumer, like the durability, the cost reduction for the client, the speed in the production of your client with that new product. Criteria for effective targeting. You have to think about measurable, size, purchasing power, and characteristics. Substantial, profitability. How profitable is going to be your product with that kind of marketing? Accessibility. How accessible is your product to the consumer that wants to target? Differentiability. You have to think about the kind of response of everyone in your marketing mix. And actionability. The impact that your campaign will have with your buyers or with your product in the new marketing. Attractiveness of marketing. You have to think about the intense rivalry in the segment. Who are your rivals in your market segmentation? Who are the new entrants, the new rivals? What are the substitute products for your product? How good or how bad it's your buyer bargain power or your supplier bargain power? Another one, segmentation, evaluation, and selection. Global segmentation, size, growth, profitability, economy of scale, low risk, company objectives, competencies, resource. Questions?
Fine.
Let's go to the second PowerPoint.
Actually, Professor, I have one doubt.
Go.
Like, and if you are talking about INGO, for example, INGO, there isn't any kind of product when you are talking about this. And I would like to understand how can you segmentate your public in a really good way if you don't have a product.
In a ONG, you have to think about the image of that ONG. Like uh, Peter. Peter, it's all about fighting any kind of harm to animals, fighting the fashion industry that produces clothes with leather jackets, etc. Peter is about fighting the hunting of whales. What? So Peter, it's a she needs money. So when Peter is trying to target new uh, patronage, when she's asking to donation, who Peter is going to target? It's going to be the owner of big fashion companies? I don't think so. So she has to think about the segmentation of their marketing. Who are most probable to give me money for me to continue my fight against everything that I oppose in my life? Who can think in the same way as me? That's the kind of thinking that a young think. I want to build schools to help third world children. Who am going to ask money to build schools in third world countries for children? That's the
Yeah.
kind of segmentation you have to think about it.
Okay, I see. I see. It's about the image. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Thanks, Professor.
no problem. Continuing, market composite in international marketings, pricing. As I told you in this last PowerPoint, the selling of the product, it's the final result for every market campaign. If your product is not going to sell, you have failure. It's useless. You have to sell the product. So to sell, you have to have something very basic. You have to have price. So pricing, it's one of the most important aspects of your marketing. Price is the only component of marketing that generate profit. Every other aspect of marketing is cost. I want to make a TV spot, cost. I want to hire Angelina Jolie to my campaign, cost. I want to make a spot in the Chinese wall, cost. I want to print a folder, cost. Everything is cost. The only thing that's not cost is the price. When you when you decide your price, you are thinking about your profit. How much do I will profit? How much do my client will profit? One of the problems today, it's marketing campaigns. leave the price to the client. If the client says that the product is going to cost 10, it's going to cost 10. I don't care about that. It's not my problem. It is your problem. It is a market problem. It's the marketing agency, the responsibility to tell their client that that product has to have another price, higher or lower, because it's the price that's going to give profit. And if the client do not have profit, your campaign failure. The price generates communication with the buyer. It doesn't matter how beautiful your campaign is. If I'm trying to sell a big ink pen for 100 reais, I will never sell one pen. But if I'm trying to sell a Mont Blanc ink pen for 100 reais, I can put, I don't know, two stray dogs barking to each other. Doesn't matter. Just put two dogs on the screen and the phrase, new Mont Blanc pen, 100 reais. You are going to sell everything. It's not going to rest one. For those who don't know, the Mont Blanc pen can go for thousands of reais, thousands of dollars. Of course, that is never going to happen. But what I have to say is price, it's the most important aspect that you can think of. It doesn't matter everything else if the price of the product is not in the same page as your marketing campaign, as your consumer, as your market segmentation. Everything evolves around your price. Even if it's too low, it's not good, because let's get an example. If you see a advertisement for a car selling store that you don't know, you never heard before of that store, and he's selling BMWs for 1,000 reais, you're gonna trust that company? You really gonna believe that that company is going to sell me a BMW for 1,000 reais? I don't think so. So the problem with the campaign that you saw it was the price. It was because it was too low. It raised all your flags for attention, for problem, for possible fraud. You're never going to buy from that company. So the price is important, even if it's higher or lower than it should be. Alternatives to the price. Quick evaluation decision of the marketing. So it's called scheming. Is to reach the highest possible revenue in a short period of time. What is that? I will have a aggressive price so I can win my marketing from my competitors in the short period of time possible. That's quick evaluation decision. Market price can be used to base your competitor's price. If you have another competitor with a similar price of yours, you can raise or lower your price so you can see if the price of the marketing is already in the optimal position or not. It's not because everyone is selling Coca-Cola at 7 reais in the supermarket that 7 reais is the optimal price. If I try to sell for 8, do I will sell as much as the one that's selling for 7? I don't know. If I try to sell for 6, do I will sell more than the ones that are going to sell by 7? I don't know. Sometimes even if you lower your prices, You are not going to sell better than your competitors because the price it's already balanced in the market. No one will enter in the supermarket to buy a Coca-Cola 2 liters and look at the price. Oh, it's R$ 7. Now I'm not going to buy because in another supermarket in 5 blocks from here it's R$ 6. It's not that R$ 1 that's going to make the buyer change his perception. The penetration price, it's used to know how you can enter a new marketing. You use low prices with the full intention to generate volume sales and increasing your market share. It's different for the skimming. The skimming has a shelf life. When you are doing the quick evaluation, you have a timeline. You know when you will end that price, regardless if you are selling good or not. In the penetration price, you do not stop until you reach the market shares you want. And you are going to go lower and lower and lower until you reach the market shares you want. Export price strategy. That's more important for this kind of class, for international marketing. You have to think about the standard worldwide. Regardless of the buyer, you have to think what kind of price do the international marketing use for that kind of product. Your costs are irrelevant. I expend R$ 1 to make my product. I cannot sell for one fifth. So you're never going to go international. If the international marketing is buying from one fifth, for them it doesn't matter if it's from China, Russia, Thailand, Brazil, United States. The international market is going to buy using that standard price of the marketing. If you can have your price inside the standard price of the marketing, then your marketing starts. Then you start talking about your product, the benefits of your product, how good your product is. But in the international marketing, that comes after you already have the study if your price is good enough for the international marketing. Differentiated pricing. Product pricings for export are available. Cost-based and market-based methods. You have to think about my price, thinking about my cost, or my price, thinking about my market. Normally, in international, it's based on the marketing, not in your costs. But since you also have your local market, you have to separate those two and know the difference when thinking about the cost base and the market base when trying to figure out your price. Some companies just thinking about my product cost R$ 12, so that's about $2. I'm going to sell for $2. It's not this way. It's not like that you think about your international price. It's not a direct correlation. Cost of modifying the product for foreign marketing. Do I have to change my product to sell in another country? What kind of change? What gonna be my costs with that changing? Operation export costs. Despachante aduaneiro, the custom broker, the freight. Every kind of international cost you're going to have. Costs about new markets entering, the tariffs, the fees, the taxes that you're going to have to pay if you are going yourself to another country. Remember when I talk about ways of internationalizing your company? Licensing, foreign presence. So if you are going to have a foreign presence and open your own company in another country, you have to think about the tariffs, the fees, the risks, the political risks, commercial credit risks, everything you have to think about when thinking about your price for international marketing. How can you cut your costs, adapt your product? If you change your product as a whole, not only as for the international marketing, if you change everything, your international product to be the same one as your local market, that's going to reduce your costs because you do not have to have two different lines, two different brands, two different packagings. Use new or more economical tax or tariff classification. In Brazil, it's the NCM. What can I change my product so I can change my NCM in the way that my product tariffs and taxes, it's going to be lower when entering a new marketing. That's something you can think about. Assemble or producing your product abroad. Open a company in another country. Try to reduce the costs in a country that the labor and the material you're gonna use, it's cheaper than in your own country. Export related costs. I think I go back. Okay, sorry. The transfer price, transfer pricing or intra pricing, it's the set of sales prices between the corporation companies. That means that the transfer price has to be managed in a world characterized by different tax rates, exchange rates, government regulations. So if you are the owner of two companies in two different countries, you have to think about the prices between that two companies. Example, Nike China produces the shoes, the sneakers, and sells to Nike Brazil. Do you understand? Nike China makes the sneakers, but they do not just send to Nike Brazil. It's not free of charge. They have to sell to Nike Brazil. It's an intercompany transaction, but it has value. And you have to think about that. Because you cannot just say that it's $1. It's not going to be accepted by the government from both countries. So even that you have to think about when you think about your price. Now, to finish, let's talk about market research. The primary research process. You have to satisfy the marketing needs. You have to think about the segmentation of marketing, the macro variables, the per capita income, the consumer spending. That's all about the market segmentation that I already talked. Sorry, I already talked with you. Those are important points when you are doing your research. Questions that every market campaign have to answer. So think about the backpack presentation. When I'm reading the paperwork or watching the presentation, what answers do I want to see responded by you? I want to see you tell me what's the market potential of the product. How much does that consumer can expand on that product? What are the demands in Brazil to produce that product for that marketing? What kind of effects will that product have in the new marketing? That example of questions that I want to see the answers from you. And remember, in the AV3, the backpack presentation is going to be worth 3 points. If the teams do not present, The final test will only be worth 7. It's not like right now. Right now, the ones that do not make the presentation are going to make a test worth of 10 points. In the AV3, the teams that do not present to me will have 0 from the 3 points of the presentation. And in the top grade that they can have will be 7. Okay? Remember that when we reach the AV3. Industrial research versus consumer research. Consumers are about large groups, research through interviews, approach on the streets. The population of industrial users are less numerous or more difficult to reach, because if I'm trying to make a research about industries, I have to have access to the owners of that companies. I have to have access to the inside of that companies. It's different from the consumer that I can approach on the streets. The cooperation of those who respond in the surveys are different. Asking someone in a shop center to answer a few questions, it's different than calling uh, someone from the Dias Branco family and ask them questions about the Dias Branco company. Degree of research centralization. You have to think about how clearly you're going to approach your subjects for your survey, your research. You have to coordinate your research. You have to think about everyone that's going to help you in your research. You have to decentralize your approach if needed to. If you're going to make research in another country that you do not know the culture, the people there, you're not going to do yourself. You're going to hire a company in that country that already know that marketing is going to help you. How to prepare a questionnaire for a marketing research. The structure questions are made in the way that the people that are going to answer your survey have few or limited answers. Never make uh, open questions from beginning to the end. Open questions are not very good for analyze most of the situations for market research. When you make open questions, you only do that if you are trying to make a more in-depth information. So at first, every survey are multiple choices questions and only A, B, or C, not 5, 6, 7 options, because you want to be concise. You want to be direct with your consumer. After that, in the second moment, you can go and make another survey with open questions. But because you already know most of the information for your marketing, and you just want to have a more in-depth perception of your marketing. Direct and indirect questions. Questions regarding income and age are received very different in different countries. So questions that are very sensitive for most peoples have to be made with care. You have to be careful making that kind of questions. You have to think about the variations when thinking about the psychographical lifestyle of your consumers. When you think about developed countries, you have to think about, if I'm trying to sell a high-end product, it's not because that guy on the streets it's using suit and a tie that it's a high-end buyer. He could be a middle class or even a low class, just using a suit and a tie to go to work, because that's normal in first world countries. Different, from Brazil. That not because Brazil it's a third world country, but In Brazil, it's a very tropical country. It's not everywhere that you can use a suit every day and tie to go to work. So you see, if you see a guy with a suit and a tie in Fortaleza, it's most probable, not 100% sure, but it's probable that that guy has more income, more belongs in a higher class that you can use to target your campaign if that's what you need. So you have to think about that. You have to think about the development of the country. Despite your research planning, if you do not choose well the structure of your questions and the instruments that you're going to use in your research, your results is going to be bad and your research is not going to work. It does not matter how experienced the researcher is. It matters the experience with the people in the country you are going to make the research. That's why it's important to have local researchers to help you. And you always have to test in advance what you are trying to do or thinking about to do in the future after you have your research. Okay, everyone? This is it for
Okay.
today. Any questions?